Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Nice to see you all here. Thank you for joining us. And welcome to the Red and Green Veg Fest, Vegan Living, Living Vegan. We have a great lineup for you today and tomorrow. Just to mention that this event is being brought to you by Sprouting Compassion. And Tammy, if you're wondering why I'm all glittery and all dressed up with my tiara, it's because I'm celebrating all of you. Presenters and attendees all alike. Thank you for being here and for helping us move forward to a more compassionate world.
Nancy, I told Frijolito that you were going to dress up, so he wore his fancy hat for you.
Thank you, Frijolito. I want to start by giving a shout out to Mayor Tim Keller for proclaiming today in the city of Albuquerque the Red and Green Veg Fest Day. Woohoo! And before we go any further, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tammy, so that you can give us some logistics for this event.
Sure. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I just want to say, if you're seeing the slides, but you're not hearing audio, just know that you've joined the presentation listening through your speakers system, your computer speaker system by default. And if you want to switch that over to phone, you just need to go over to your control panel and you'll see that there's a little red arrow that will let you make the control panel bigger, and you need to just choose dial-in information there, and that should allow you to hear if you're having any trouble. I want to let you know that because there's a lot of us on today, we are using the questions function in the control panel. So if you have any answers to trivia questions, or if you have an actual question, make sure you enter it there and it will come to all of the panelists and we'll read them out to the individual speakers. Please check that chat section. We'll be chatting with you. You can't chat back, but we'll be chatting with you through chat. And then there are 4 handouts that are available for you to download anytime today, and you'll see those in the handout section of your control panel. So just know that that's all there so that we can engage more and have more fun. So Nancy, that's the technical stuff. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, so here we go. Let's, whoa. I'm just checking everything, making sure I got everything in place. I do. And so, again, I want to take a moment to recognize and thank our wonderful sponsors, King Roar Publishing, Heart and Soul, and Positive Links, who graciously makes this virtual event possible. Thank you, Tammy. Also, great thanks to our contributors, Justin Barker, ABQ Veg Albuquerque Group, Positive Links, Dr. Akil Taher, Sprouting Compassion, Rebel Cheese, and Heart and Soul. They have donated some of the prizes we will be giving out during this event. So remember to support them all. With that said, hey, Tammy, how about a trivia question and let's give something away?
All right, let me get to the trivia questions. All right, there's the first trivia question. And the first person that types in the answer into the questions section of the control panel that we can see and enter it, that's who wins. So the question is, in what year was the bill to prevent the cruel and improper treatment of dogs introduced?
And whoever answers that question right is going to win Dr. Taher's Open Heart book, signed by him, and this lovely Positive Links bracelet, if I could just get it there so that you could see it. Oh, it's just too cool to photograph, I guess. Here it is.
There we go.
With tiny little elephants on it. So the first person will have an open heart and a Positive Links bracelet.
Let's see. I don't have a correct answer yet, so I will give you some hints. It is not recent. Try again. You can try as many times. There we go. Casey got it. So Casey, congratulations. You get all those cool prizes. The answer was 1826. So that just goes to show that we've been thinking about how we should treat our fellow creatures on this earth for a long time. We just still haven't gotten it right. So congratulations, Casey.
Not yet, but we're moving forward to it. This year, we also asked our participants to share some pictures in 3 categories: animals, environment, and advocacy. I want to thank our celebrity judge, Tanya L. Cartier Hicks, your vegan friend Tanya, who I'm sure had a hard time choosing one picture over another. But here are the entries for the photo contest. As you can see, these are great moments captured in time. Thank you to all our participants. And remember to tune in tomorrow when we will announce the 3 category winners. Who will win a $50 debit card rather. So good luck to all. Awesome, awesome pictures. Wonderful. Let's get to introducing our first presenter today. Cindy Lou Negron-Matos is the creator of Veganizalo, a platform where she shares veganized recipes through her website and YouTube channel. She's also the host of La Descarga Vegana, a Spanish podcast where she talks about veganism and interviews local and Hispanic or Latinx vegans to share their stories on veganism and their contribution to this community. Coming to us from Puerto Rico, please help me welcome Cindy and her cooking demo, Sweet Plantain Canoes. Hello, Cindy. Okay, we'll have Cindy coming on any minute now. Just a little difficulty here. She should be on any minute now. Cindy?
Well, Nancy, we tested it and it still isn't working, right? Cindy, if you can hear us, I'm sending you your webcam request right now.
Okay, while we're waiting for Cindy to come on, do you want to just do a quick poll?
Sure. Let me grab a poll here. All right. There we go. If you can just answer the question on your screen and then we'll show the results in about 30 seconds. Okay, I think everybody's got their votes in. I know there are a couple folks that didn't, but I'm going to close it and show you the results. So Nancy, it looks like most of the folks on here are vegan.
Awesome.
We have 5% other. So welcome to everyone.
Welcome to everyone. And I think Cindy just tried to re-come on, so
Yes.
maybe we can move on to Cindy.
All right.
Can you guys hear me now?
We
Yes.
can hear you. Yeah?
Awesome. And can you guys see everything?
No, we still need your camera on.
Really sorry for that. Don't know why the camera. I don't know why the camera. It's not being.
It is. We've
There we
got you.
are. Okay. Awesome. Yay. Sorry for that. The internet sometimes gets crazy. Thank you, Nancy, for having me today, and welcome everybody. I'm really excited to be here on the Red and Green Dutch Festival. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. I know I'm a little bit behind. Today we're doing sweet plantain canoes, which is a Puerto Rican dish that we enjoy a lot. It has sort of like the mixture of savory flavors and sweet flavors. So if you're into sweet potatoes, you're definitely gonna love sweet plantains. If you don't know plantains, they usually look like this and this. They're like bananas. They are green, but when they're ripe, they are yellow. And this is what we're gonna use today. That's when they get sweet and delicious. So the first thing that we wanna do is cut the plantains. I usually use a small knife because it's easier to manage. Mind you, when you do that, this thing can stain, so make sure you are wearing either an apron or something on your hands as well. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it depends if you're going out and you need to be, make sure you don't stain yourself. So basically, I cut off the pieces on the top and went like this, almost like if you would do a banana split. And then I have everything. The skin comes off quite easily when they're ripe, but when they're green like this, they are kind of like tricky. So we're gonna put the whole thing in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Whoops. Sorry. 15 to 20 minutes so we can, okay, she doesn't want to go with the skin in, but I need you. I like to leave the skin on so they don't go super dry while we cook them. So 15 to 20 minutes, I'm gonna leave that there because I have one here already. That's already cooked, so the skin's gonna turn all black. That's normal. And then you can just peel it off. And the thing with the canoes is that we split them right the middle, just like you would do a banana split, and we open them, and that's where we do the filling, which we're gonna work on right now. So I'm gonna put this on the side here. And for the filling, I'm using today tempeh. This is a 3-grain tempeh, but if you don't like tempeh, or you're avoiding soy, there's soyless tempeh as well. But if it's just a thing of it just tastes weird, some people say that. I even had like a bad relationship with tempeh at the beginning of my veganism because my husband kept saying, I want to try tempeh. And every time I did tempeh, it didn't taste good. I don't know what I was doing wrong. It just didn't happen. So I'm going to cook half because that's what I'm going to use right now. So yeah, it was a matter of him cooking the tempeh and making sure that I fell in love with it. So now I love tempeh and we almost eat it every day. So what you're looking at me doing right now, I'm crumbling the tempeh. So when we do canoes here in Puerto Rico, we actually make them with ground meat. So I used to use tofu and walnut. You could also use lentils if you like them, or any brand of vegan ground beef should work as well. So I like them with a little bit of a rustic look for the tempeh, which is why I'm doing everything by hand right now. And I'm gonna go ahead and start heating my pan. We want to do it at a medium heat. And I noticed that you have some PDFs on the platform. I do have the recipe on my website. So that's veganistalo.com. And you can definitely head onto the website and it's gonna be the first thing you see there. It's gonna say demo recipe. So that's where you're gonna have every measurement. So I went ahead and heated my salad master pan. Well, here we go. And I'm using a little bit of olive oil just so that nothing sticks to it. So while that heats up and I have my tempeh here, I'm gonna go ahead and chop some mushrooms. I like to combine both, and it's a matter of like the flavor that they're gonna produce at the end. So like I said, if you don't like tempeh, you could just do the mushrooms if you're a mushroom fan. And you could also combine mushrooms. Today I'm using baby bella mushrooms, but you could either use white mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, shiitake, any kind you like, just to get that meaty flavor. So I don't like to chop the mushrooms a lot because if you cook mushrooms, you know that they get super tiny because they lose the water. So I just give them a very rough chop so that I can incorporate them with the tempeh. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix everything together when this is heat up. So you're gonna notice that I'm not seasoning right at the beginning, and that's because I'm gonna sort of like wet the tempeh, and you're gonna see with what. And then because if you add salt to mushroom, they start losing their water really quick. So I don't want to do that because I don't want that to happen. If I am going super fast, I'm sorry. Sometimes I feel like I am, yeah. But I'm trying to explain everything as I go. So I have everything chopped right here, and that's pretty heat up because I can smell it. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw everything in there. So you can use more or less 4 medium baby bellas, should be good for that. And then once I put everything there, I'm gonna put the lid on top so that everything cooks evenly. And I'm gonna leave it alone for a second. So I have a quarter of water here, and I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, tamari, amino, whatever you use. All of them work. You could even use Worcestershire sauce. That's a mouthful. So, sorry. So you can use anything that's liquid. The reason I use liquid is because for me, tempeh, when you incorporate something liquid, it's easier for it to take any other seasoning that's dry. So I always add liquid, even if it's like a marinade at the beginning and not while it cooks. It doesn't matter. I always add a little bit of liquid to my tempeh. Gonna go ahead and stir this. And I'm gonna add the liquid. Those mushrooms are smelling. Okay, so the other thing that we're gonna add while that cooks is adobo seasoning, which is very popular here in Puerto Rico and the Caribbean islands. And basically, adobo seasoning has salt, pepper, a little bit of oregano. It also usually have bay leaves. Sometimes they have achiote, all those yummy spices that are from here, and even recao sometimes. So if you do this at home, it's not until you add the adobo seasoning that you get those smells from Puerto Rico. So be on the lookout for that smell because it's really good. I'm gonna leave that for a second or two more before I add the adobo. And this is a very quick dish. So if you're in a rush for like dinner or lunchtime at home, this is a quick meal because the thing that takes the longest is cooking the plantain in the oven. After that, you're good to go. We usually pair this with rice and beans, but you could do a salad or quinoa or whatever you like. But for me, this is a meal on its own. So usually I do it with a salad. And we also add those avocados in that salad because we are an island that loves avocado as well. So it looks perfect, and I'm gonna add the adobo. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sprinkle it like that. And now I'm gonna get that yummy aroma that I'm telling you. This is what makes it smell more like Creole cooking, whoops, of our country. And there we go. So after you add the adobo, you can give it a minute or two more. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off because that's gonna be ready in a second or two. And what we do is we're gonna fill in everything. I'm gonna take out, because we're in a magic kitchen with a little bit of time. I had already meat prepared here, so I'm gonna just make sure I show you. After that, you just stuff it. That's why I use the gloves, because it can get messy. So you just stuff it with whatever meat you're using, the meat substitute, and then you're gonna top it up with cheese. And the cheese is gonna melt either because the meat is hot, or you can just put it on boil in the oven for like 5 minutes and it's gonna be good to go. So I have one that's here already. Let me take this off. So you can guys have a look at it. And I'm not sure if it's on top or in front of me, but this is what it should look like. And like I said, you can just pair that with a salad, rice and beans. And yeah, I hope I made everything clear and I didn't go super fast for everyone. I want to say before I go, I want to thank Casa Vegana, which lent me their space, and this awesome kitchen, Salad Master, who provided us with the pans, and Nancy, once again, thank you for inviting me. I was super excited to be here today, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the veg fest today and tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm gonna make that as soon as we finish today. I just brought plátanos, but anyway, that
Nancy, you had a few questions?
I could smell the aroma. It was awesome. I'm hungry
I
already.
know.
Thank you
I'm
so
glad.
much, Cindy, for
Nancy, you
joining
have questions for Cindy?
us. Sure.
Cindy, first of all, what's your website again? What's your address?
It's veganizalo.com. Is veganizalo.com.
Cool. And then can sofritas be used instead of adobo?
Yeah, you can definitely use sofrito. I would do that with the oil at the beginning before you throw in the tempeh and the mushrooms. And I also wanted to say on the PDF for the recipe, I added a little note in the recipe, which gives you every ingredient for the adobo in a measurement so that you can do your own adobo at home if you can't find it in any store.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Take care. All right. Our next speaker, moving right along. Next up, who better to keep us rolling along than Jane Velez-Mitchell? Jane is nationally known TV journalist and best-selling author, winner of 4 Genesis Awards from the Humane Society of the United States. Jane Velez-Mitchell covers crimes against people, animals, and the environment. She is known for speaking up for the voiceless. Of course, you also know her from Jane Unchained. Here is Jane in her presentation. The phone is your most powerful tool to save animals, people, and planet. Welcome, Jane.
Welcome. Can you see me and hear me?
I can see you. I can hear you.
Fabulous. Well, first of all, I love that dish that was just made by that lovely vegan chef. I'm Puerto Rican on my mother's side, and so I did grow up eating platanos and yuca. My mother was actually the first animal activist in my life. She was born on Vieques, the island of Vieques, which, as you probably know, is part of the Puerto Rican Commonwealth, but it's a separate island off the mainland of Puerto Rico. And she had what she thought was a pet pig, a friend who was a pig. And when she was a little girl, she came home, and she was born in 1916, by the way, before women even had the right to vote. And so this was probably around 1921, 22. She came home one day and the pig had been slaughtered for food, and she fainted. And when she came to, she was devastated and shunned meat from that point on. She came to New York on a boat by herself at the age of very young, around 12. She formed a very successful Latin dance troupe called the Nita Velez Dancers. They played the Caribbean, the United States, and Canada. And I guess her pinnacle was playing the Palace Theater in the Five-A-Days, when movies would be intercepted with, between each showing of a film, they'd have a live performance, and my mother would do the live performance. They were called Five-A-Days. She met my dad, who was Irish American advertising executive. He also began to shun meat. And so I thought I grew up in a vegetarian household, but we were actually pescatarians. We ate fish, we ate eggs, and we drank milk. And so many years later, I grew up in New York, Midtown Manhattan, went to New York University, then worked as a journalist in Fort Myers, Florida, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, New York at WCBS for 8 years. And then I got a job out here in LA at Paramount Studios was the location. It was a very fun, glamorous job, KCAL. And in walks, this was about a quarter of a century ago. I was an anchor and reporter at KCAL TV. In walks Howard Lyman, the mad cowboy, who had been on Oprah talking about the secrets, horrors of the meat and dairy industry. And if you remember way back then, Oprah said that just stopped me cold from eating another burger, and the cattlemen sued her, and she had to move her show to Texas for a while, but she won in the end. So after the interview, he comes up to me and he says, "Do you eat dairy? I hear you're a vegetarian." I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you eat dairy?" And I hung my head because I had heard all about the horrors of the raping of the mothers. None of these cows are making love, or any of these animals that people eat are making love. They're all raped into existence. Feminists, take note. And the babies are abducted, and then they're all killed. So it's a rape, abduction, and murder operation. And I hung my head and I said, "Yes." And he said, "Dairy, liquid meat." And that's when I went vegan. Thank God. And I had recently also gotten sober. I'm 26 years sober. So I had clarity, and I started to see that, wait, I say I love animals. Why would I be causing all that torture? So I was already vegetarian by that point. Then I went vegan, never looked back. And yes, like everybody else, I used to love cheese. And about a month afterwards, somebody accidentally put cheese in something I was eating and I spat it out because my taste buds returned to their factory settings. So ultimately, I ended up working at CNN Headline News, was my last corporate job for 6 years. And I asked them if I could do a little animal segment once a week. It was a crime show, but this is the ultimate crime. And they probably thought I was going to do pet adoption. So they said, sure, you can do an animal segment. Well, I started to do hardcore animal rights, showing pig gestation crates where pigs are kept in crates the size of their bodies, never able to turn around, showing downed cows, dragged with hip clamps by tractors, just all the horrors of our industry. This industry, the meat and dairy industry, is morally reprehensible. It's wrong. Anybody who looks at any undercover investigation has to either see that or they need to go see a shrink, because it's truly, truly just massive animal cruelty. And now it's destroying our environment too. And it's the leading cause of heart disease, not to mention we're in a zoonotic pandemic. So flash forward 6 years, I had the show, ended late 2014. I had just turned 59 and a half. At the same time, I thought, okay, this is a time to embark on my next phase of my life, which is what am I going to do that I could do indefinitely? So I started this nonprofit, Jane Unchained News Network. And basically, I took that little animal segment I did once a week and decided to do it all the time, but do it with social media, because I wasn't working at a national network. So this is where we get to the phone. The phone is your most important tool. Everybody use your phone. No animal activist should be saying, oh, I don't like social media, I got to get off it. No, this is how we get the word out. What is a network? A network is simply a production company with a distribution channel to an audience. Every cell phone allows you to shoot videos. They've even done entire movies on videos. Edit them. There's iMovie right in your phone, or you can get it on your laptop, and distribute it. You can also go live on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. Distribute it to an audience. So every meal you can, just like this wonderful chef you just had on, just showed her meal and you showed it, you can do it right here. You can literally go on your Facebook and say, this is what I'm making. In fact, let me pick this up here. I have this little tool, which is very inexpensive. Well, it's not zero money, but for what it does, it's a stabilizer. You take the case off your phone, but for demonstration purposes, I'll just show you. You balance it, okay? Oh, this one has to be fixed. I have two because I use them so often. Here, this is one that okay, so you get this. You can get it on Amazon. All right, so that's the clamp, and you just put it in and take your case off first. Then you balance it. So you have a little screw back here, you balance it, and once it's balanced, see how it's balanced right there? That's balanced. Then you tighten it and you turn it on. You turn it on with this one little gizmo here and watch it come alive. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that. So now you have a stabilizer. You can shoot incredibly professional video. Now, if you just have a selfie stick, that's okay, but shaky video is dead. We don't want shaky video. People go, nobody's going to watch it because viewers are sophisticated. You can go down, you can go up, you can pan. I use it all the time. So remember, it's a phone, so the audio is here. Don't be talking to somebody who's a block away. You got to stick it in their face, and you got to tell people to speak up. So anyway, that's something you can do. You can also go live just on your computer with Facebook. We at Jane Unchained News, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, okay? I don't take a salary. I donate to my own nonprofit, and we work on donations. We have approximately 70 volunteer contributors. They go live on a regular basis. Now, during the pandemic, what we did was we got everybody something called StreamYard, which is basically a studio in your laptop. If you want to scroll down a little bit, you're here at the top. You can scroll down and see we've got right there, you see New Day, New Chef is our vegan cooking show. Well, scroll up a little bit to the right where you can see the Facebook. There's a Facebook feed. There you go. Okay, see, one veggie at a time. That's a show that we had today. And if you click on that, you'll see the show from today, this morning. So there you go. We have shows all the time where we are showing vegan restaurants and everybody has a great time. They're all doing it on their phone or using their laptop, demonstrating great recipes. We have a show called Lunch Break Live every day, facebook.com/Jane Velez-Mitchell. The thing I'd urge everybody to do, go to janeunchained.com. That's the page you're seeing here. And do you see where it says get breaking news email? Put your email in there and sign up. Go to janeunchained.com, put your email right in there where it says email and sign up. Then twice a week, I'll send you updates on the latest breaking news. We're working on a story right now. We cover veganism and animal rights. We work a lot about trying to wake people up to, hey, we're destroying all the wildlife. We're literally on track to wipe out virtually all wild animals by 2026 at the rate we humans are destroying habitats. So we're about to post a story on efforts to provide wildlife corridors for wildlife in Los Angeles as well as around the country. But look, we have momentum. Think about it this way. Beyond Meat, the most successful IPO, initial public offering since the 2008 financial crisis when it went public a couple of years ago. You have Oatly going public. You have the best restaurant in the world, 11 Madison Park in Manhattan, going completely plant-based with one tiny exception of if somebody demands cow's milk, they'll give it to them. You have the Met Gala, which is the pinnacle of society where all the celebrities and the billionaires and the fashionistas want to be seen. This year, thanks to Billie Eilish, I think, because she's the co-chair, is going 100% vegan. You have Epicurious, which is one of the top websites for food online, saying they're transitioning to plant-based. You have even the New York Times, which has been dragging its heels, now has a vegetarian like special report that you can sign up for. The world is changing, but everybody needs to get involved. If you're watching and you are a vegan or you're an animal lover, you're veg curious, get active. It's fun. We all need to get involved. I worked for 38 years in the news media, like 12 hours a day, constant work. I'd like to be on the beach reading a trashy novel. I'm doing this because this needs to be done, because we've got to wake the world up. The last thing I'll say, tell me when I should wrap, because I don't want to overstay my my time period here. But yes, it's very easy to get involved. What do I do? Well, first of all, sign up to Jane Unchained. We're always talking about organizations and campaigns. On August 31st, the Plant-Based Treaty is going to launch. The Plant-Based Treaty is basically modeled on the Fossil Fuel Treaty, and it's urging individuals. If you scroll all the way down, you're going to see the Plant-Based Treaty story. You could just keep, there it is on the left, Plant-Based Treaty, Climate Solutions. That launches on August 31st. There's going to be demonstrations around the world. You can go to plantbasedtreaty.org and find out if there's a demonstration near your city, or you could start your own demonstration. There's even a plant-based treaty dance that I did, making a complete fool of myself the other day. So there's so much going on. Don't just sit back and go, oh my God, this is terrible, I'm helpless. You're not helpless. Every person who gets involved will help us to get to the tipping point. So make vegan food, take pictures of it, put it on your Instagram, get involved with Jane Unchained. Do what Nancy Arenas is doing, starting a veg fest. What a great idea. So I just want to say, the last thing I want to say is, you never know where your efforts are going to go. Just because your first effort might be modest doesn't mean that it's going to stop there. So we have a daily vegan cooking show on facebook.com/Jane Velez-Mitchell, Lunch Break Live. Every day we do one. It's happening today. The holidays, Doesn't matter. Election day, New Year's, a storm, we always do a lunch break live. Well, out of that came a professional vegan cooking show that's on Amazon Prime and public television stations around the country. And if you scroll up, I'll show you finally where it is. You can go to, just scroll up the website for one last comment here, because I'd like everybody to see it. It's New Day, New Chef. It's on the upper right. You can see all the way at the top. There it is on the right. New Day, New Chef. We are on Amazon Prime. You can go to New Day, New Chef on Amazon Prime and watch it, and also on public television. That's it. I'm done. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Jane. And you know exactly what you said. I'm signed up on your newsletter. I always get your updates, and they're always very good information and keep us on top of everything that's going on. And what you said, some of the things that you said was just awesome. And it does take every one of us. And if you don't want to go out there and hold a poster or do that, you can surely share everyone's efforts that is happening, whether it be yours, mine, or anyone.
Yeah, just go on to Jane Unchained and hit the share button and share it to your Facebook. We need people to share our stories more. We're spending hours. By the way, Tanya is one of our great contributors, one of our top 12. If you just sat down at Jane Unchained and hit share on every story and shared it to your Facebook and your Twitter and your LinkedIn right there, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, that would do such great work for us, because we spend so much time working on these stories. So right there, that's something you could do sitting at your laptop. I'm going to spend 10 minutes every day going through these stories and sharing it out right there. That would be enormously helpful. Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, and as you said, and just, you know, everyone's effort. Like you said, you run a nonprofit, you don't take a salary. I run a nonprofit, I don't take a salary. I think we're just doing it because this is work that has to be done, and somebody has to step up and do it, and we're not waiting for someone else. So thank you, Jane, so much for being here today.
We had a few questions for Jane. Nancy, we had a few questions for Jane.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Jane, couple people asked more about the stabilizer, where they can get one, what brand. Can you give us more information on where to get these?
Yes. Well, they're Amazon. One thing I do is there's a little rubber thing here and I take it off. The biggest problem we have is audio. There are mics that you can hook up, but it's extremely complicated. And sometimes it doesn't work with the live. So luckily I have a very loud voice, so it's not a problem with me. It's usually not a problem for the person behind the camera. It's the person you're interviewing. But yeah, you can get these on Amazon. I would just put in iPhone or phone stabilizers, and a bunch of them will pop up. Don't get the fancy one. I think this is called something ZQ or something like that. I honestly don't have the exact title. I got these a long time ago. But if you go on Amazon and you put cell phone stabilizers, a whole bunch will show up. Don't spend a lot of money. This one I found was the easiest. Some of them are a little hard. You don't want one where you have to download an app. You don't want to do that, because going live is already tricky. You don't want to have to download an app. So get a cheap one. These are under $100. They're like 80 some bucks. Squeeze Q. I think it's called Squeeze Q. Squeeze Q. Check that one out.
Great, thank you. And then you mentioned SteamYard, and folks were wondering what that was.
StreamYard. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes. So no, it's fine. I mean, if you okay, click on Miyoko's story, and then I'll take you down. I'll show you. Most of our stories have a live video connected. So our process is we generally go live on Facebook, scroll all the way down, you'll see a video somewhere at the very bottom. At the very bottom, and we put a lot of effort into these stories. That's why if you could share it out, you see the share buttons on the left side, it would be so easy for people to share. Okay, right there, you see the interview? This is one of our great contributors, Elizabeth Alfano, interviewing one of my heroes, Miyoko Shinner. What a powerhouse this woman is. Anyway, that interview is being done on a platform called StreamYard, which is basically it's it's basically a TV studio in your laptop. So you can interview somebody, you send them a link, kind of like Zoom, but you can also play videos. You can have headlines. You see how she has a headline. You can post comments. It really is a great platform. And we have about, I'd say, well, at least a dozen contributors who have the StreamYard. It's about $400 a year. We get a group discount that gets us down a little bit lower than that, but it's worth every penny, because during the pandemic, when people couldn't go out and go to protests and marches and Veg Fest were all canceled. I'm on the board of Veg Fest LA. We had to cancel it 2 years in a row. It was heartbreaking. And we don't even know whether to plan for May 2nd because the situation is fluid. But thank God we had StreamYard, where we were able to have everybody create their own shows who were top contributors. So Elizabeth Alfano has interviewed leaders of industry across the board. Then we scrambled to write stories on it and post it on Jane Unchained. All of this takes a lot of work. I can't tell you how many times I'm up till 2 in the morning working on a story. So if you guys could just share out these stories, you see the share buttons on the left side, it would really, really help us.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good luck. And hi, Tanya.
Our next speaker, let's get the party going on, is Tanya L. Cartier Hicks.
Cartier Hicks, yep. Oh, I'm on. Okay. Hi, guys.
Hold on, Tanya. She is a vegan activist from Michigan, recently married, and she loves spending time with her husband, Odell. She is a hairstylist, actress, and independent filmmaker. She is also a contributor with Jane Unchained, the vegan news channel and website. She has her own YouTube channel called Your Vegan Friend Tanya, where she has videos of activism as well as many personal videos related to her vegan journey. Help me welcome Tanya. Speak up. They need your voice. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Nancy. That was fun seeing Jane. She's a hard one to follow, you know. I mean, if we should all have the passion that Jane Velez-Mitchell has, she's amazing. I want to thank Nancy and Tammy, both you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, like Nancy said, my name is Tanya L. Cartier Hicks from Michigan, and I'm really honored to be here with all of you guys. And so my talk is about losing the fear of speaking up about like being an activist. So I want to also thank you guys, because whoever's watching this right now, it means that you're spending time with us and you care. And it means that you're taking time to learn and inspire yourself to make our planet a better place and a safer place for animals. So thank you for watching. So a little bit more about me. Like I said, my name is Tanya L. Cartier Hicks, but I go by Your Vegan Friend Tanya. So I have a small YouTube channel. And again, I get to be a contributor with Jane Unchained, which I love. So I've been vegan for about 6 years now, and I realized the importance of speaking out pretty early in my vegan journey. Like I said, my name is Your Vegan Friend Tanya, but the reason I called myself that is because I wanted to have a friendly name to call myself, because a lot of times when you just have the name vegan or the word vegan talked about, sometimes it can immediately like annoy people or make them offended or something, do no fault of our own, but they just don't want to hear about it. Have you guys been in that position? So, but the fact is, like, if you're not living as close to a perfect vegan lifestyle or a perfect environmental lifestyle, the fact is we're all directly contributing to the suffering and the unspeakable suffering of other beings on this planet. So we can't tiptoe around these issues anymore. We need to speak out. So I used to be afraid of speaking out, and I'm really not anymore. And that's why I'm here today, is to share like the whys and hows of speaking out about these important issues. So I just mentioned how some people are immediately turned off by the mere mention of the word vegan or veganism, and that's a real shame. But we need to understand something, and that is by design. The meat, dairy, and egg industries spend so much money, as well as big government, of course. They spend so much money to make sure that people do not see what they do not want them to see. So that's by design. Another reason people get really uncomfortable when they hear the word vegans or veganism, it's advertising. So meat, dairy, and egg companies spend millions and millions of dollars on advertising every year. And when you are constantly bombarded with commercials and advertising about hamburgers and chicken nuggets and dairy products and breakfast sandwiches and things like that, it really plays a number on the perception of the normalcy of all of these food items. These ads normalize the violence in such a way that most people don't even think of the violent act that it took to get these products on your plates or wrapped up in a bun or a wrapper in a bag. They don't even think of these things as violence. Have you ever noticed that? So a long time ago, I was hanging out with a friend, a long time ago, and we went to one of those Renaissance dinners. And I remember my friend didn't want to eat the chicken that was served to us because it was on a bone. And she was kind of grossed out by that. And I remember even then, even though I wasn't a vegan at that time, I remember thinking, well, what's the difference? You know, like really, what's the difference? If it's on a bone or if it's not, it's still the same thing. It's still an animal, you know? But she just couldn't. And there are a lot of people who are turned off by the sight of a dead animal over a fire pit, right? They're like turned off by that because it's too clear of what it is. But they have absolutely no problem buying or eating any other animal as long as it's neatly wrapped in a cellophane bag or a paper wrapper or something like that. The fact is, people do not want to know where their food comes from. So when you, the vegan, and I know that we're 95% vegan so far, a little while ago when we took a poll, 95% vegans on here. So hopefully this is relatable to you guys. But I know that people don't want to know where their food comes from. So when we start bringing things like that up, it starts making them face that, and they don't want to think about that. They don't want to be forced to hear about where those products come from and the violence that they're actually supporting. So it's easier to think of the vegan as a hypocrite or a bleeding heart or a weirdo, and how dare we make them see the truth. That's really relatable. That's why I'm here today. So government bailouts and animal product advertising have made animal products and buying animal products seem like the most healthy, normal, ethically fine thing to do ever, when we, the vegans, know it isn't. We know that it's detrimental to our ethics about the animals, the suffering of the animals, the suffering to our planet, and the suffering of our own health. But because of the seemingly normal standard American diet that most people follow, it does make it hard to talk about these things. It's kind of like fighting a cultish mindset, and it makes us look bad, even though all we're trying to do is share information that's literally life-saving. So all of that makes communicating with others effectively kind of a big task. And I have to be honest to you, I remember being that same way before I went vegan too. I remember wanting to put a wall up and feeling that same way. I remember not wanting to hear it. I remember looking away, blocking it out. I don't remember exactly when the final seed was planted with me, but I do remember that once it did, a lot changed in me. And I was able to face the information about veganism and thankfully let it sink in. When my blinders came off and I learned about veganism and all that goes with it, the ethics, the environmental and the health aspects of it, it was the biggest deal ever. Like, it was the biggest thing in my life. It was literally like the Matrix when you take the red pill and you tumble down the rabbit hole. That's what it was like. So many things that I've always assumed were true suddenly became scary and false, and I see suffering everywhere now. And when I learned the truth that has been kept hidden from us, from me, from us, when I learned about where the food comes from, I was sure that when I shared it with other people, this didn't happen. But I thought what was going to happen is I would talk to other people and share what I learned, and then they would also be appalled but happy to know it. And then they would change their ways and they would share it with other people as well. And okay, that usually doesn't happen. Usually what happens is they get annoyed with us and they don't want to face what we know. So I realized how important activism is a while ago, because the activism that I do isn't about me at all. And so I think that's, again, where I lost some of my fear. It's a wonderful thing for us to stop contributing to the suffering of the animals and the planet. That's great, of course, but in order for change to happen, activism needs numbers. We need to, and we have to, share information with others to cause real change. We need to rise up in many different ways and ask other people to use their voices. We have to. There is misinformation, as you know, misinformation and corruption and tons of money on the side of animal and planetary suffering. So it's going to take all of our voices to share that, to stop that. So you are living your life day to day, eating the diet that you're told by the media, and all of a sudden your blinders start getting loose and you become vegan and you believe in it and you educate yourself. And now what? How do you begin to share information with others and also ask them to make the switch as well? Well, I feel like I am an expert in this area. Just kidding. But because I have made every single mistake you can possibly make when trying to advocate for veganism. Like, I'm kidding. I don't actually like to call it a mistake. I just like to call it learning lessons. But I've made a lot of mistakes in communicating. And so I want you to know and not forget something, though, is when you start speaking out and advocating for the animals and for the planet, your heart is in the right place. So please just do it, okay? Whether you think you're going to mess up, just do it. Speak up and you'll find your style in time. Share stories and share stories and information and advocate for the animals as if it were you in that cage or next in line at the slaughterhouse. And maybe if you think that you have made a mistake, work on your approach as you go. But just believe then and also forgive yourself, because know that you are just trying to save lives, and that deserves appreciation, and you have mine for that. So I have come across, like I said, made every mistake. I've come across as too pushy, not pushy enough, like a know-it-all. People have reminded me that I ate meat my whole life, okay? So all of the number of excuses that we've heard before, I get it. I suggest when this happens, keep your mind on the why you want to share information, okay? Think of the dire situation that our planet is in and the animals and what they're going through, and forgive yourself if you don't word everything 100% perfectly, because 100% perfectly doesn't exist anyway. So there are many different ways to speak up on behalf of the animals and the planet. There are activists who get their message out in many different ways. Some people have a really bold, loud style. Some activists choose to shame fur wearers in public, or meat eaters, or picket circuses, and others take on like a much more subtle approach. I just like to give my personal opinion on these things, and that's like, I love them all. I love it all. I think we need every kind of voice. We need every kind of activism done, and we need it as often as you can possibly do it. I think it's all great. I also love to share vegan food recipes, of course, like I get to do often on Jane Unchained. We do that every single day, as Jane was talking about. You can share any kind of food information, new recipes, everything on social media. It's all valid types of activism, and it's all needed. We need everything. So you're living your life, okay, and you find yourself in a situation where you could pass on some information. Where to start? One huge thing that I believe can be really helpful is to make you feel more confident in speaking, is to learn as much as you possibly can about all the aspects of veganism. The more you know, the easier it will come out. There's a lot of resources, tons and tons of resources out there, including YouTube and podcasts and films and books and whatever you think is going to grow your confidence. Just inhale that information. That's what I did when I first went vegan. I became pretty obsessed with it. Like I said, my whole world turned upside down. So it was really important for me to find out all about this new life that I was going to live. Learn as much as you can about as many points as people like to throw up against veganism, and I promise your confidence will grow a ton. So when advocating for the animals and for our planet, it can be really helpful to keep the ethics of veganism, keep the animals at the forefront of the conversation. Sure, the diet and the planetary information is extremely important, of course, but if you're sharing information and it happens to get heated or off topic, or if the excuses become really plentiful, you can always steer them to the truthful argument that killing animals for food is completely unnecessary. Hence, all of the animal agriculture things are completely unnecessary. The good thing is, like Jane was saying, is news of plant-based and vegan foods are everywhere nowadays. So people are hearing more and more about it. They're also hearing more and more about all of the climate changes associated with animal agriculture. So that's fantastic, because people are more aware of these things now, making it a little bit easier to talk about it. People know animals are innocent and don't deserve what happens to them. So you have to remember that even it can be hard, because people, just by the sheer action of bringing up the word vegan, sometimes already start feeling a certain way. They already start feeling a little bit guilty, and you can come off as accusatory. Now, that's not our problem, okay? You don't have to coddle people who are causing harm, but this is about making change. So you do want to open a bridge of communication with people. So what I found to be helpful when trying to build a common ground and stay relatable is to remind people that you were raised the same way they were. Remind people that all you did was simply heard and learned a lot of new things, and then you decided to make changes. And then when you decided or realized that you could live happily and healthfully without contributing to this type of suffering any longer, It wasn't as hard as you thought, and also they can do it too. So this type of communication can be helpful, and the best part is that it's kind and it's truthful. So that's just what I do anyway. Another important part of being an activist I have found is to find a community for yourself. I strongly suggest making some like-minded friends, and we are out there, okay? The internet makes this easy to do. Go to an event, join groups on Facebook, reach out and grow your vegan family. This was a big part of my experience, like I said. So I love meeting other vegans. Please don't be shy. Go to an event alone and actually say the words, I need vegan friends. I can't tell you how many friends I've met that way. And I've heard people say it too, like, hey, I need vegan friends. I'm here. What's your name? Let's hook up. Let's go to lunch. Okay. Even if you can't go to lunch now, everybody does everything online. It's fine. Reach out and make yourself a community. Again, the world seems like it's the Matrix now. And I needed to know that I didn't take the red pill alone. When you have an opportunity to advocate and share information, please don't forget, these are just seeds that you're planting. This can be unfortunate, but it's very unlikely that someone will go vegan immediately on the spot. And it can happen, of course, but as an activist, don't set yourself up for a feeling of failure expecting that. Be concerned with planting seeds and encourage others to go out and seek their own information out. If you expect people to only become 100% vegan after you talk to them, you're setting yourself up maybe for some failure. And it's really important as an activist to do self-care. Think of yourself as playing the long game and take care of yourself. Use your voice to make positive change. Remember that it might not seem like it immediately, but we are planting seeds, and sometimes you can't see the seeds, but they are being planted. They will continue to grow far after your meeting with someone. Educate yourself, stay firm in your belief that this is the right way to live. Plant those seeds, invite more conversations with other people, and remember, we need your voice because you are on the right side of history. So with that, I thank you so much. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of the Veg Fest.
Tanya, that was such great advice that you gave. And you know, when I went vegan, I too thought that when I tell these people that all about the health benefits and the torture animals, that it would just make people just go, you're right, what was I thinking? I'll be vegan too, but it doesn't happen. And it takes all of us in all different kinds of ways to spread the message.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Tanya, for being here with us and sharing your knowledge.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you guys. So take care. I'll watch the rest of the show and looking forward to it. Bye, you guys.
Okay, bye-bye. Our next presenter is Dr. Akil Taher. He is a practicing physician in Gadsden, Alabama, and lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And in 2010, at the age of 61, he dramatically altered the conventional script adopted by most bypass surgery patients by climbing Mount Kailash in Tibet at 19,000 feet. This was a year after his open heart surgery. In October 2013, he ran his first full marathon, the Chicago Marathon. And in September 2012, he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest freestanding mountain in the world. He then expanded the canvas of his age-defying adventures by pursuing physically challenging activities on land, sea, and air, including triathlon, scuba diving, whitewater rafting, hand gliding, skydiving, and a Century bike ride, a 100-mile cycling event at age 70. Dr. Akil Taher is the author of the new book, Open Heart, The Transformational Journey of a Doctor Who, after bypass surgery at 61, ran marathons and climbed mountains. Please help me welcome Dr. Taher.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that kind introduction, Nancy, and giving me this opportunity to talk on a very important subject, prevention and reversal of heart disease, very close to my heart, by whole food, plant-based vegan diet. Next slide, please. Now, right at the onset, let me tell you all that heart disease is the leading cause, the #1 killer of both men and women in the US and worldwide. Heart disease kills more people than all the cancers combined. We are talking about cancers of the lung, colon, prostate, and breast. 1 in 4 deaths in the US are due to coronary artery disease, a type of heart disease. And 1 person dies every 40 seconds of heart disease in this country. That means, folks, by the time I finish giving this talk, 20 or 22 people will die of a heart disease. Next slide, please. So this is my story. I am a 73-year-old physician, but I also am a heart disease, coronary artery disease survivor. Yes, folks, I had bad genetics. I had high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, heart disease in my family. But remember, genetics play only about 15 to 20% of your healthy outcomes. This too can be mitigated by a proper lifestyle change, mainly a whole food, plant-based vegan diet. What was my lifestyle? All through my adult life, I loved unhealthy, rich food. I was a seafood eater, S-E-E. I ate everything at sight. You name it, and I've eaten it. I was also a couch potato. I did not know the meaning of exercise. The only muscles I exercised were my eye muscles looking at joggers run in the park. On top of this, I had an extremely stressful life. I used to work long, hard hours, paying scant attention to myself, my health, physical and mental, paying very little attention to my family and friends. So it was no surprise that heart disease, coronary artery disease, came knocking at my door at the age of 56. When they advised me to do an angioplasty where they open up your coronaries, put stents to keep the coronaries opened, and you should have thought by now, after this, I would have learned the lesson. I did not. I continued the same lifestyle. And so, at the age of 61, my angioplasty failed. I had restenosis, and I had to have an open heart surgery. This is my chest 1 week after the open heart surgery. This, folks, was a turning point in my life. I had to make a change. This was an inflection point, or you can call it a reflection point. I had only 2 choices: either to continue leading the life that I was leading, go retire, go on my rocking chair, live vicariously through my children and my grandchild, and wait for the inevitable death. Or I had to change, make this setback into an opportunity, to make this into a comeback. And I chose the latter. So as they were wheeling me into the surgery room, I looked at the nurses, the ICU nurses, and I promised them, I said, look, if all goes well with this surgery, in a year's time, I'm going to do a half marathon. And by God, they smiled, they laughed. I don't blame them. They thought probably I was talking under the influence of anesthesia. But after my surgery, I took those simple, small steps. I started changing my diet, leaning towards the vegan diet. I was still not a vegan. And taking small steps, a sedentary slob now, going for a 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, and by Jove, in 8 months' time, I did my first half marathon in Nashville, Tennessee in 3.5 grueling hours, but I felt like I was on top of Mount Everest. And from then on, there was no stopping. I did marathons, I did triathlons, I jumped out of airplanes, I did bungee jumping, and life was superb. Next slide, please. I want you folks to understand, when we talk about heart disease, the #1 killer, what happens when your coronaries are blocked? I want you to understand the mechanics of coronary artery blockage so that you understand that on one hand, you have angina, and the other hand, you have heart attacks. Now, the options for these two are different, so that tomorrow, if you or your family or your friends have something like this, you can go back onto this and think about it and ask your doctors. Next slide, please. So this is your coronary artery, the artery that takes blood to the heart. It has got an endothelial lining around here, which is very, very important because it produces a very powerful substance, nitric oxide, which keeps the coronary artery dilated. It protects the walls, and it keeps the blood flowing freely into this passage into the lumen. But what happens when you have a bad diet? Next slide, please. A rich, unhealthy diet, like the previous speaker talked about, the standard American diet, aptly called the SAD diet, diet full of eggs, meat, and carbonated sugary drinks, or, mind you, a junk food vegetarian vegan diet. This is what is, I gave an example of an Indian diet. If it was so important, why are people in India who are 70% vegetarians dying of heart attacks? Why is India the heart attack capital of the world? Because there is a lot of oils, processed foods, saturated fats, and we love our sugars. Next slide, please. So what happens when you have a diet like that? Your great coronary artery that I talked about with that endothelium, now there is a damage to the endothelium. No more nitric oxide is being produced. And so you are getting this cholesterol, fibrin, and calcium forming plaques, these yellowish things around here. It narrows the lumen and reduces the blood flow. It takes years to form this, decades to form this. And when it narrows down to an extent that you start getting chest pain on exertion, we doctors call it as angina. Next slide, please. So what happens when you get the blockage over a period of time, decades of plaque formation? You also get new blood vessel formation, the collaterals around the heart. You see these collaterals? These collaterals keep blood flowing to the heart, distal to the blockage. So your heart is never devoid of any blood flow. Let me give you an analogy. If you have a raging stream and you want to put a stop to it, you take bricks or stones or pebbles on either side and come to the center to stop the stream for a while, because eventually water will find its own way above the stones, under the stones, sidewards to move forward. So in this case of an angina, there is very little chance of getting a heart attack. Next slide, please. What happened to me? This is what happened to me. I had angina. My plaques were large, thick, containing calcium, scar tissue, and you have unlikely to break and cause heart attacks. Two of my arteries were 98 to 99% blocked, but I did not get a heart attack. So had I known then what I understand and know today, there is every likelihood that I would have used another option besides putting stents or getting an open bypass surgery. Let me explain further. Next slide, please. But before I explain that, now we have a situation that I told you, difference between angina and heart attack. In a heart attack, recent scientific studies have shown that younger friable soft clots which break suddenly, forming an emboli. And this rushes on to a certain part of the heart, plucks that part, kills that part of the heart. This is a heart attack. 50% die with their first heart attack. I was lucky. I did not get a heart attack, but 50% die with the first heart attack. Next slide, please. So now, when you have a heart attack, it's a typical Hollywood type of a heart attack. You got severe crushing chest pain, shortness of breath, and your finger should go to 911. Ambulance comes around, takes you to the emergency room. They do an EKG blood work. They find you are having a heart attack. They put you on blood thinners. They take you to the cath lab, and your clots are removed. Boom, 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 your clots are removed. And then you either get stents or you get surgery. This is a course you have to do because this is an emergency. Next slide, please. So coming back to the reversing of coronary artery disease, and this should absolutely remain in your minds, that what is the powerful, the miracle of the whole food, plant-based vegan diet. Next slide, please. Is this a miracle or can this be done? This is reversal of coronary artery disease with lifestyle changes in diet. Trust me, folks, I was in the auditorium. This is a 61-year-old gentleman who had multitude of health problems. He had also multiple blockages, coronary blockages. He was not a candidate of surgery or stents. So, and then they showed us a video of this man in the auditorium. He could not walk from one end of the room to the other end without getting shortness of breath or chest pain. Now, this is the appearance of his coronary artery. Look at it, folks. A moth-eaten, narrowed down with clots, and probably looking like a rat's tail. And then, because he was not a candidate for surgery and stents, he was put on a whole food, plant-based, no oil diet for 3 years. Look at his coronary now. Completely dilated without stents or without surgery. This is what I would have gone for had I known before. Next slide, please. So, large international studies from New York University and Stanford, they say that invasive procedures are no better than diet, medication, and lifestyle changes, even in severe but stable heart disease. And Dr. Cook, a famous cardiologist from Stanford, goes a step further, saying that 50% of stents, angioplasties, and bypass surgeries done in the USA are unnecessary and should be only done in emergencies, like a heart attack that we talked about, and when medication, lifestyle changes, and diet fail. Next slide, please. So this is what we are. We doctors are great at treating the consequence of the disease, especially chronic diseases like diabetes, blood pressure, obesity, high cholesterol, heart disease. See, these are all man-made diseases. It's not only treating the cause, it should be preventable diseases. But what we do is we treat the consequence of the disease. Therefore, we are experts at heart transplants and kidney transplants, liver transplants. But what are we doing? Yes, we are living longer. But are we really living healthier? No. What we are doing is in an overflowing sink. We keep mopping the floor. Then all we have to do is turn the faucet off. So, next slide, please. And this is my final slide. This is my book, The Open Heart. Now, a few important points in my book also, and I'll be telling you right now. Diet is more important than exercise. You cannot outrun your diet. It is not bad genetics that run in the family. It is a bad diet that runs in the family. I had bad genetics. I'm doing good. My book will also help you to learn from the mistakes I made. Help you to understand the importance of a vegan, whole food, plant-based diet, my personal experience, and backed by science. It is also has a lot of adventure and self-deprecating humor in this book. And it's a very fast read. And finally, it is a testament that age is not a limiting factor in changing one's lifestyle. I did it at 61, and I am leading a purposeful life. I want you people never to undergo what I went and live a superb, purpose-driven life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Taher. That was such amazing information that you gave us. And I do have your book, and we have been giving away some copies. Thank you for the books so that we can distribute them. And it is an easy read. And again, thank you for being here and sharing your story. It truly is inspirational. And like you said, it doesn't matter what your age, and you can outrun your diet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hope you have a lovely ongoing fest. I love them. Bye-bye.
Bye. Next up is Dr. Will Tuttle. Dr. Will Tuttle's writings, presentations, and music focus on compassion, creativity, intuition, and the intersection of social justice, animal liberation, and environmental, health, spiritual, and peace issues. He's a visionary speaker, educator, author, and musician. He's a former Zen monk with a PhD from UC of Berkeley and a vegan since 1980. He is the editor of Circles of Compassion in Buddhism and Veganism, author of Your Inner Islands and other books. He is also the recipient of the Courage of Conscience Award and the Empty Cages Prize. He has appeared in many radio, television, print, and online interviews, as well as documentaries such as Cowspiracy, Prayer for Compassion, Hope, What You Eat Matters, Vegan, Everyday Stories, and Animals and the Buddha. Please help me welcome Dr. Tuttle in his presentation, Food as Medicine, The Keys to Radiant Wellness. Hey, Dr. Tuttle, nice to see you.
Great, yes, thank you so much. And it's delightful to be with you. So I'm assuming you can all hear me okay, and we'll go ahead and get started. Yeah, the main points, I just really love these presentations so far. They're excellent. And the main idea I want to share here is the deep structure of veganism and of our health, and how the keys to healthy living, essentially, as we just heard from the great doctor, have a lot to do. I mean, I say a tremendous amount to do with diet. You cannot outrun your diet. That's absolutely true. I've learned that over the years. And I'm so grateful. I just want to start out maybe by just saying that I'm so grateful that there are people in the world who have been sharing these ideas. That, you know, I was born and raised in a typical family in New England back in the 1950s, and ate the usual meals growing up as a kid. I never would have known if it hadn't been people that brought this message. So I'm so grateful to you, Nancy, and to everyone who's helping to make this possible. I've been able to, as a vegan now for 41 years, since 1980, to travel extensively throughout the United States. I've been able to give lectures now in all 50 states multiple times, and in over 50 countries worldwide, all over Asia, Africa, the Middle East, Australia, New Zealand, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, and so forth, spreading the vegan message. And the underlying idea is that all of us have been given this wonderful gift of a physical body that does not require anyone to suffer to get all of the nutrients that we need to be healthy. So this is the fantastic basic good news that we all can celebrate. And the problem, of course, is that all of us have been born into a society where from the time we're little infants, we've been compelled, really without our permission, from very well-meaning people, you know, our mothers and fathers and friends and neighbors and relatives and doctors and the ministers and you know, everybody and teachers and everybody, to eat the flesh and secretions of horribly abused animals. And this is devastating to our physical health, as we have been learning. And but it doesn't just stop there. The World Peace Diet, the book that I wrote, which became a #1 Amazon bestseller worldwide, goes into the big picture of the consequences of animal agriculture, which is what I'd like to share a little bit about here. And I think we're seeing it today all around us, actually. Nothing has really changed in regard to the basic fact that we live in a herding culture. We live in a culture that's organized at its core around owning animals as property for food and other products, herding them. We're not herding them like people did for thousands of years, in a small scale, kind of with sticks and things. It's all industrialized and computerized at this point, but it's still the same thing. It's a herding culture with millions and literally billions of animals are herded in these horrifically mutilating and toxic and hyper-confining factory farm situations. Cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, ducks, geese, and fishes. Massive fish farming operations where animals, these fish are, and other animals like every kind of animal you can think of, lobsters, and they're all crammed into aquaculture operations and killed. And so there's a tremendous amount of pollution, of suffering, of concentration of toxic chemicals, herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, antibiotics, drug residues. All this ends up in the flesh and secretions of these animals, in their milk and their eggs. And so we're all born into a culture where we're taught to eat this stuff, which is not only full of suffering and misery and terror and fear and pain and anxiety and depression and all these things, but it's full of these toxic pesticide residues. And we're eating foods that really are harmful on every level. Whether they're organic or not, it really doesn't matter. Even organic meat, dairy products, and eggs are still filled with lots of basic toxins that even if it's organic, for example, the IGF-1 growth hormone that is in all dairy products, which is like throwing gasoline on a fire for cancer, causing breast cancer, prostate cancer. We see definite causality being established, osteoporosis. And the acidifying and inflammatory animal protein, the saturated fat and cholesterol. These are, you can't get away from these things that are in animal foods, even if they're organic. So the alternative, which I'm so happy that I discovered many years ago, is a whole foods, plant-based way of eating and living. Organic is very important, because if it's not organic, then what are we doing? We're paying people to spray all these toxic chemicals into the environment to kill birds and insects and fishes and butterflies and so forth. So please remember that vegan means organic. Vegan is, the word vegan actually means to do the best we can to minimize the suffering we're causing to other beings. other animals and other human beings, and to ourselves. So it's basically our inherent wisdom just functioning naturally, as it naturally would. As a human being, we naturally, with our natural human eyes, when we look out into the world, we see other living beings, animals, and we naturally have a sense of kinship with them. You see that with children very easily. But we're taught from the time we're little kids that certain animals are just products. We buy and sell them by the pound. So this is basically injecting into all of us a mentality of privilege and elitism, that certain beings are inherently inferior and we humans are completely superior to them. And this is devastating, obviously, to these poor animals who are hyper-confined and mutilated and killed. They're impregnated against their will on rape racks. Their babies are stolen and killed, and then they're killed. And this tremendous amount of violence, sexual abuse of other living beings, forced vaccinations and medications, of course, of many kinds. Tracking systems are put in place, and these animals are just reduced to commodities. How can we do that? I mean, how can we tolerate being in a world where we're allowing that to happen, or where we're even supporting that happening? I don't think it's tolerable. It's time for us to forcefully not only stop doing that ourselves, but to do everything we can to spread this message of compassion, of caring, of justice, of liberation. Because as long as we're enslaving animals, we're sowing the seeds for our own enslavement. As long as we're forced medicating animals, we're sowing the seeds for our own medication. As long as we're tracking animals like they're just commodities, we're sowing the seeds for our own tracking like we're just a commodity. So as long as we enslave animals, we're going to find ourselves in situations where we are being enslaved and imprisoned ourselves. And if we're observant, we can see these things happening all the time, even in the human world. I call this in the World Peace Diet the boomerang effect. Whatever we sow, so shall we also reap. So if we're going to insist on sowing these seeds of violence and abuse and enslavement to literally billions of non-human animals, why do we think that we would able to not have that happen to us? Why do we think that we don't deserve the same thing to happen to us? We know at a deep level that the wisdom traditions of the world all agree on one basic thing, which is whatever you most would like to have for yourself, give that to others. So if we want to be free, to let others be free. If we want to be loved, then to be loving. If we want to be abundant, then to be generous. These are the basic wisdom teachings of all the world religions. Another way to say it is, whatever you sow, so shall you also reap. Whatever we put out will come back. So the key to radiant health is to do the best we can to help others be healthy. That's the key to radiant health, to do whatever we can to help others be healthy. Whatever we sow, we will reap. And so that's why eating an organic, whole food, plant-based diet is a fundamental foundation, because when we move into that way of eating and living, we minimize our environmental footprint. So we're not basically taking out our wallets and paying for animal-based foods that cause enormous suffering to other animals, and also are wasteful and take grain and legumes and land and food and water and petroleum, fertilizer and so forth that could feed other human beings. It's a 90% of the food we grow we're feeding to these imprisoned animals, and they only create about 10 to 15% of the food. So it's unbelievable. It's just absurdly wasteful to eat animal-based foods, and it causes hunger and starvation directly to other people who are we have close to 1 billion of our brothers and sisters starving or chronically malnourished, because most of the food is being fed to animals, and we in the wealthy West are eating the flesh and secretions of these animals. So we're causing war and conflict, which come about because of injustice and hunger and starvation. So if we want to create a world of peace, that's why I call it the World Peace Diet. It's very easy. We just need to give peace to those who are at our mercy, to the animals, to future generations, to hungry people, to the slaughterhouse workers. I mean, think of the fact that we have whole armies of people who do nothing but impregnate animals on rape racks all day, steal their babies and kill their babies, stab animals in the neck and kill them, these are the worst jobs you could ever imagine, and yet we pay people to do this, and these people have the highest rates of suicide, drug addiction, and alcoholism. So again, we're causing terrible disease and ill health in other people if we're eating animal foods. So moving to a plant-based diet, we cause health and harmony and peace. We take away the causes of disease and misery and terror in a very powerful way. So that's the most important thing. But there's other things too. It's not, we shouldn't just stop there. It's very important to remember there's at least 7 keys to radiant health. And food is the foundation of all of them, organic and whole food, mostly local if possible, and as much as possible, grow it yourself. That's the best thing, or get it from farmers markets where you know who's growing your food. That's really the way we lived for a long time when we were healthier. Grow the food yourself. We have 70 fruit trees here in Northern California where we live. We've been working really hard in the garden every day and growing a lot of our own food. So you can even grow your own sprouts on the counter or tomato plants on the porch. Just do something to grow your own food, to recycle your compost, to become more self-sufficient and connect with these cycles of food, and support people who are growing foods this way. And also mainly, at least 70% I think would be good. That's living foods, fresh foods, grains, nuts, seeds, but especially lots of fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. And we have a fantastic foundation for radiant health. Another important thing besides the food, okay, is exercise. We all know that. Regular exercise is amazingly important. So you can, cardio exercise is great. Yoga is fantastic because it helps build flexibility as well as balance and strength. Qigong and Tai Chi are wonderful for working with energy. And weight training is wonderful also to help build strength. So exercise is very important. Food and exercise are critically important. The third thing I want to mention is maybe the most important thing of all, which is mental attitude. In fact, perhaps even more important than food and exercise, just because that's what underlies everything. We can even be eating a very healthy diet and exercising all the time, but if my mind is filled with anger or jealousy or fear, I don't like the people I'm living with, I'm frustrated all the time, then we have to remember that our body is basically like a pharmacy. We're creating thousands of hormones all the time, different substances that are really very active. So if we're waking up in the morning and we're giving thanks for another day of beauty, of learning, of contributing to a better world, then every cell in our body is being fed by not only the thoughts and feelings that go with this, but with the substances that arise naturally from this, the different hormones and so forth. So it's really important to have a positive mental attitude and to cultivate that. So every cell feels, gosh, it's important, we gotta do our work today. If we wake up in the morning and we think, oh gosh, another day, I'm afraid of what's gonna happen. All the cells are saying, well, what are we doing here working for this guy or this woman? She's not even appreciating her life. So it's really important to consciously create a positive internal environment and to cultivate that and build that, and to keep looking deeply, ever more deeply into our true nature, to realize that what we are is not just a physical body. This is a big problem, that we live in a materialist society. Since we reduce animals to mere matter, we think that we're just matter too. We're just a piece of meat, a physical body. It's very essential to take time every day to meditate and to question more deeply the source of our true nature, the being that we are, which was never born and will never die. What we are is eternal consciousness, and we're functioning through a physical body, and we're creating by our consciousness this experience and this body. So the more we understand that, the more we, of course, will choose foods in harmony with our true nature, the more we'll have relationships that are based on love and respect and kindness for others, the more we will, of course, enjoy and love running and walking and swimming and moving and letting our physical vehicle celebrate in nature. So these are the 3 main foundations of health: mental attitude, diet, and exercise. Also having a purpose that goes right along with it, having a purpose that you love for your life, a reason for living. Also being creative. Having creative outlets is incredibly life affirming. Music, I play the piano every day. I highly recommend having a creative outlet so that you're painting or creating writings or movement, dance, music, sculpture, whatever, just something to express yourself, your unique being. Also, besides creativity and these other things I mentioned, connecting authentically every day with nature is critically important. So I just want to emphasize this: nature is beautiful. Nature is abundant. We are nature. And our whole society, being based on herding animals, is based on basically disconnecting from nature, dominating nature, exploiting nature, oppressing animals, cutting down forests, reducing nature to just something to be used, a commodity. And so to reestablish a sacred connection with nature, this is amazingly helpful. To take time to just wander in the forest or on a beach somewhere to look into the beauty around us. And I think all of us, when we make this a regular part of our daily lives, will find that our health begins to be just transformed in very positive ways. So these are the main dimensions of health that I want to emphasize. The foundation of everything really are those big three. The food, of course, you can't get away from that. That's what actually builds this beautiful temple that we are. But it's built at a deeper level from our thoughts and feelings, and to understand that. So it's very important when we go vegan, not to simply change our food, but to transform the way we look through our eyes out into the world. Veganism is a philosophy and a way of life which seeks to create a world of loving kindness and compassion for all living beings. And so this is the great transformation. So it's important for us not to just to realize that it's a two-step process. There's the one step of moving to an actual whole food, plant-based way of eating and living. But the second step is to then bring that into every cell of our being, into every relationship, kindness and compassion to not only the non-human animals in our world, but to the human animals in our world. And that can be much more challenging. So I want to thank all of you for the efforts that you're making to be part of this global healing and global awakening. I send all my love to you and appreciation. I encourage you to make an effort to understand these ideas and embody them in your daily lives more and more fully every single day. I'm happy to work with you to help that happen. So please, if you are interested in finding out more, you can go to our website, which is worldpeacediet.com. We have books there, the World Peace Diet. You can get that on Amazon or anywhere. We have training programs, the World Peace Diet Facilitator training, and lots of other videos and articles and all kinds of stuff. So Nancy, I'd like to go ahead and turn it back over to you, and just thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you for always spreading the message of compassion compassionately. You are one of my heroes in this trying to reach the ideal of veganism, and the way that you always bring forth that message is always just so kind and peaceful, and thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you everyone for listening, and much love. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Gabriel Gaarden. He is a registered dietitian who is passionate about investigating and implementing the most effective evidence-based strategies for promoting improved human health, health equity, social justice, and environmental sustainability. Let's welcome Gabriel Gaarden with Power Up with Plants.
Drum roll. Woo! Thanks for that great intro, Nancy. That was a funny little screenshot that you had of me, probably from one of our recent Vegan Pulse podcasts, for my little photo there. Great. Hi, welcome everyone. Great to be here. I know we're a little behind schedule. I'm starting my timer and I'll try to go under 15 minutes so that we don't cut into your lunchtime too much and the rest of your weekends. Wonderful to be here. Great to hear from all these other wonderful presenters. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. I hit share screen. I'm still seeing my webinar. Maybe I needed.
We're seeing your screen.
Are you seeing the webinar video? Or there we go. If I switch over to the PowerPoint, I think we'll be good.
We see your PowerPoint.
Great. Can you all still see me? Because I can't see myself. I just wanted to show off one of my favorite t-shirts here. It's from nutritionfacts.org, which if you all aren't connected with Nutrition Facts, you should be. One of the greatest websites for evidence-based, plant-based information. And of course, this says evidence-based nutrition is awesome. And that's what my life is all about. I'm a registered dietitian. I have a master's in public health. And like Dr. Akil was expressing in his wonderful presentation earlier, many doctors are great at treating the symptoms of disease and especially dealing with those emergent conditions, you know, when somebody has a heart attack, when somebody has a stroke. But our medical system does a tremendous disservice to everyone in our country when it comes to preventing all of those, you know, diseases of lifestyle. And so that was a big reason that when I fell in love with nutrition about 8 years ago and adopted a whole food plant-based diet, went vegan, got super excited about it, reversed a lot of chronic digestive issues that I had had for years. I decided to go back to school to become a registered dietitian because I wanted to be a leading force of change within the realm of, you know, our health services and healthcare communities, to be a force of change from the inside. And so I'm so excited to be doing this work. And then, of course, I decided to get an MPH because those of us working in public health, we've seen through the pandemic, yes, we deal with emergencies like COVID in providing all of the changes that have gone on, as well as, you know, ramping up and getting vaccines ready. But that's what public health is all about. It's responding to those emergencies, but it's also doing the groundwork, even though we very much underinvest in public health in our country. Hopefully that will change, just like hopefully lifestyle medicine will continue to change and more doctors like Dr. Akil will start doing the powerful work of having their voices to help in prevention and not just doing treatment, you know, like most of our system does today and is historically done. So I studied public health because I said I want to upstream before people get sick and get cancer and have all these other autoimmune disorders and different conditions. Can we make some societal changes, some systemic changes, so that we can help people prevent all of these diseases, prevent all this unnecessary suffering, and help people live their best life so they can power up with plants, like the subject of my presentation. I just had to take a picture earlier. This is my little spaghetti squash Heisman Trophy pose, because that's a spaghetti squash that we grew here in our garden. And I love that Dr. Will Tuttle emphasized that whenever possible, I know there's a lot of barriers out there for a lot of people. They may be living in the inner city, low income, have to be working multiple jobs, and it can be very difficult for some people to have their own garden. But like he said, we could have a little window box garden in our windows, or we could have a little tomato plant just growing in a bucket, you know, on the little patio right outside of our apartment, even if we don't have a yard. Or indoors, in addition to window box gardens, we can also have just growing some plants in jars, like he said. If we start sprouting, it can be super easy to still grow some of your own plants, do some of your own composting, recycling those nutrients, a lot of wonderful things. And even if we don't have the time or the energy or the resources to do those things, we can still start eating more plants, and we can do that today. So let's go to the next slide. Energy is a big thing. Most people, when they transition to a plant-based diet, they get more energy because you're eating a healthier diet. It's supporting better health. It's supporting a better biochemistry, just more health within your body. But some people complain, oh, I adopted this vegan diet thing, or I went plant-based a few weeks ago, and yeah, I felt good for a few days, and now I'm starting to feel like I'm in a slump. I don't have that much energy anymore. What's going on with me? And they inevitably revert back to those animal products or those other foods that they were eating before because they don't feel good, or they may not feel good, even though most people feel much better on a vegan diet. For those who are struggling, one of the biggest things is you have to eat more. when we transition from a standard American diet that's laden with a lot of excess oil and especially animal products and other processed foods, right? These foods are very high in energy density or calorie density. They're just full of calories, right? And that's a big reason why we see so much chronic overweight and obesity throughout our country. When we transition to a plant-based diet, we're naturally eating all these healthy foods that are much higher in fiber and water, and they're much lower in calorie density because they have all that fiber and water. And so because of that, if you're putting the same amount of food on your plate, and I have a great slide to show this in just a minute, which I'll give you some practical examples of like how to build a healthy plate, what that looks like to take all the guesswork out, because we know we need to eat more plants, but unless we have some practical tools for how to make that happen, then sometimes people are left questioning, hey, where do I get started? How do I make this happen? I'm going to give you those tools because that's the job of a good registered dietitian. So yes, we need to eat more. And of course, we can focus on energy dense plant foods, right? And those happen to be foods that are rich in complex carbohydrates, protein, and healthy fats. So when we're thinking complex carbs and protein, we can think principally beans or legumes, right? And legumes is the umbrella term for any kind of bean, our split peas, our chickpeas, and our lentils, right? And there's dozens of different beans and lentils, if not more, that we can find in almost any grocery store. And they are some of the healthiest, most awesome foods that we can eat on the planet to give us more energy, to help us feel better, and of course, to help alleviate a lot of chronic health conditions and or prevent them from happening in the first place, right? Beans are paramount. They're so important. They're so wonderful. So we got to eat more beans. Complex carbs and protein. Whole grains also have those as well, right? Quinoa, especially oats, are very high in protein, but you're going to get a fair amount of protein from any grain, and you get all those wonderful complex carbohydrates that we need for sustained energy. So you got to bulk up on the beans. We got to bulk up on the whole grains. Think of your other starchy vegetables, right? Like winter squashes, whether it's acorn, whether it's butternut squash, right? There's so many different types of winter squash. Those are rich in complex carbs, as well as our tubers, right? Think about our root veggies, our potatoes and our sweet potatoes. And there's so many different kinds, the purples, right? The oranges, the Yukon Golds, right? The red potatoes, wonderful stuff. We got to eat more of those in their whole natural form, right? There's nothing wrong with eating potatoes. Potatoes never cause diabetes. It's all the other junk that we throw on top of them that makes them unhealthy. So eat them in their whole natural form, of course, cooked. You got to cook them to make them digestible. And then third, make it sustainable, right? And so we can't go from 0 to hero, or at least most people can't, right? We don't have necessarily the time or the resources or the self-efficacy, right? Those are like the skills and the confidence that we need to make changes. Those things in many cases happen gradually over time. And so just start somewhere, right? And if somebody's saying, hey man, I just can't, I really want to do this plant thing. I'm really interested in a plant-based diet or going vegan, but it might just be too big of a change for me to happen overnight, right? Then it doesn't have to happen overnight. A change just has to start today, no matter how small you might think it may be. Small changes, when they're built on top of each other, before you know it, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the road, you will have completely revolutionized your diet and lifestyle. But start small, right? And if you're missing meat, well, then have a piece of meat every once in a while. Ideally, no, right? Or ideally, if you're missing meat, all of our wonderful plant-based alternatives now that do a good job, or such an incredible job of imitating, like a one-to-one, are the tastes and the flavors and the textures that we get from a hamburger or other things that we love, right? Think Beyond Meat, think Impossible Foods. These foods are incredible. And so if you're missing a piece of meat, just go for one of those plant-based alternatives. And then ideally over time, we're going to work our way more and more toward a whole food plant-based diet, right? Where we're thinking of those plant-based meat alternatives more as delicacies, like any meat eater or omnivore should be thinking of meat in the first place. It should never be a centerpiece of the diet. It should be a condiment. It should be a flavor enhancer, right? But the plants should always take the centerpiece of the meal and be the predominant foods that we're eating on a daily basis. But same thing with the plant-based meat alternatives. Ideally, over time, we eat those as more of a special treat on special occasions, a little less often, and we eat more of these whole plant foods. Awesome. Protein and fiber. For those of you who have been vegan for a long time, you've gotten this question a million times, and I know it gets old, but this is just something great to reiterate, that 97% plus of Americans literally get beyond like 1.5 or 1.7 or more per, times, so almost 2 times of their, actual protein requirements. And that includes vegans, right? And yes, protein is important, but like I mentioned earlier, if we're emphasizing the beans and the whole grains and the nuts and seeds and the dark leafy greens and all these foods that are rich in protein, we're not going to have to worry about protein. And if you're somebody who's looking to bulk up and build muscle, then you can even add like a healthy, protein, replacement, whether that's like something like Vega is a great company, or I get my my multivitamin from a great company called Complement. I have no relation to the company. And they also make a protein that's super minimally processed, right? The company's called Complement. And so some of those healthier, more minimally processed sources of plant protein supplements, right, is always an option, but you don't have to do those things if you just emphasize a lot of whole plant foods and the ones that are higher in protein, like beans. You can't get too many beans. And then on the flip side, 97% or more of Americans don't get enough fiber. And so what we should be talking about our country is not our obsession with protein, because most people are getting more than they need, or at least plenty, but hardly anybody in our country is getting enough fiber. And this includes many people who are vegetarian or vegan, because we eat too many highly processed foods, right? Especially now where you can get a vegan alternative to any kind of, junk food alternative, whether it's ice cream or, cookies or whatever, right? And so we got to eat more whole plant foods, because that's where we find all the fiber, is in the whole plant foods, not the super processed junk. 15 grams per day is the average American intake of fiber. And if you average the requirements between men and women and young and old people, 31 grams per day is the minimum, right, in terms of what we should be getting on average. The needs for men are a little bit higher than women, but women's are around 25, men's are around 35. You average it, it comes around 31. So we're not even getting half the fiber we need as Americans on a daily basis. This is a travesty. And if we could just get those fiber intakes up, we could do so much to alleviate so many of the chronic health conditions that people are suffering from in the US today. Heart disease, diabetes, a lot of autoimmune disorders, the list goes on. So get more fiber. All right, so this was that practical tool that I mentioned. Optimize your placemat, right? I love this 50-50 method. I learned about it from this great dietitian named Jeff Novick. He was one of the inspirations for me to become a dietitian. He's for a long time worked for Dr. John McDougall, whom many of you may have heard of, right? And he's incredible, he's impeccable. And he came up with this 50-50 method. And that's basically on 50-50 on the volume of your plate, right? So it's very easy to see. You want about 50% coming from whole food starches, right? Legumes, starchy vegetables, intact whole grains. Those are the best starchy foods that you can eat. And then the other 50% of your food wants to be either non-starchy vegetables or fruits. So think more breakfast foods, snacks, things like that. We more often use fruit. And then vegetables will more often be for meals. But of course, you can have vegetables for breakfast too. Don't let that stop you. But any combination of fruits and veggies are the other 50%. Now, if you're somebody who's lean, you're an athlete, you're young, and you need more calories, you bump that 50% a little bit over on the starchy foods because they're higher in calories, and you get a little bit more of those and a little bit less of veggies and fruits, right? But you still need a lot of those foods, but you're going to get plenty of them if you're eating a lot, right? And if you're looking to lose weight, if you're somebody who's overweight or obese, or you're an older person and your needs are a lot lower in terms of calories, right? Because your metabolism slows down. In that case, you can bump the percentage up a little bit on those low calorie density foods, the non-starchy veggies and the fruits that happen to be very low in calories. And you bump down the starches on that other side of the graph, and that'll help minimize the calories that you're eating. If you're going to eat appetizers, start with a soup, or start with a water and a vegetable soup, right? Not a cream-based soup, because creams are high in calories. And then, or salad, right? And then minimize the amount of oil that you're eating. Oils aren't the end of the world. I know some of the heart disease stuff says no oils, but the biggest thing with oils is we just want to bring them down, right? We want to minimize the amount of oil we're eating. And so instead, think about using some nut butter or using some tahini, right? Because those come from nuts and seeds where they have the fiber and all the other beneficial nutrients that are coming along with the fat. And then use some vinegars and herbs and spices and other things to make those delicious dressings. If you're going for fats, Again, we want to go more for the intact plant fats and less for the processed oils, and that includes extra virgin olive oil. Again, a little bit's okay. We want to minimize those, and we want to go more for the intact stuff because that has the fiber and all the other beneficial nutrients intact that we lose when we make those free vegetable oils, right? So raw nuts and seeds, raw avocados are going to be the best. I just hit my 15-minute time mark. Of course, drinking water is ideal. We shouldn't be drinking milk. And then if we want dessert, finish with fruit. And then calorie density, that's something that's very important that I talked to you about, but we can share those charts with you all because I sent them to Nancy and Tammy, and so at some point they'll get those up to you. And so you can print out this as well as the placemat. And then I've got some great resources here, nutritionfacts.org, Plant Proof, Danielle Bellardo, wonderful doctor who's a cardiologist, Dr. Matthew Nagra, and then the Vegetarian Nutrition Dietetic Practice Group, which I'm a member of in the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, made up of registered dietitians who are following the evidence and leading with, evidence-based, plant-based information. So you can find them at vndpg.org. Great information. Thank you so much. There's my handle at Instagram, Garden of Eaton, because my last name is Gaarden, which is very fitting for a plant-based registered dietitian. And you've got my email there. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you so much for all the information. And yes, I did have a old photo from your, Gabriel is one of our hosts for the one of our segments, Making Sense with Gabriel. Once a week, we have, once a month, Gabriel has a segment that talks about all about nutrition. So thank you, Gabriel, for being here and sharing with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Nancy.
Okay.
Have a good one.
You do the same. Up next is Paul Roybal. He is a native New Mexican, born and raised in northern New Mexico, and currently residing in Albuquerque. He is a celebrated local vegan chef, having won several awards and a past presenter at the Red and Green Veg Fest. His specialty is in demonstrating that it is not difficult or costly to prepare delicious vegan recipes quickly and easily. Welcome, Paul. Tools, tricks, and tips. Vegan cooking made easy. Oh, can't hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
I see you have a helper.
Yes, I have a little frijolito with me. We found frijolito on the streets of Albuquerque last year during the COVID experience, if you will. And he's just a joy to be with. Frijolito, of course, means bean in Spanish. What a lineup you've got today, Nancy. I feel honored to be in the presence of some of the presenters, Mr. Gaarden, or Gaarden, as we say in Spanish. My name is Paul Roybal. I've been a vegan for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was a carnivore, ate a lot of meat. I had a lot of health problems. Since becoming a vegan, I feel so much better, and you hear that so much. I used to go to bed at night with Tums jammed into my cheeks just to avoid the indigestion that I got from being a carnivore, if you can believe that. And somehow I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. But it takes a while after you've been a vegan for your system to readjust, and the benefits health-wise, how you feel, your total outlook are just indescribable. It's been really great experience. I was a presenter at this, I think this is my 3rd year at the Red and Green Veg Fest of presenting. Also, I've got a few awards behind me. In 2017, I won 2nd place in the MAC down in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with my Paul's Compassionate Cauliflower Coulis Mac. Then in 2018, I won 1st place in the Taco Takeover, the Takeover. 1st place, and that was great presentation because there were some award-winning chefs there, and I was really honored to have won 1st place in that presentation in 2018. And of course, here's my trophy. can't miss that. You know, when I first became a vegan and started cooking vegan, it was really scary. In the carnivore world, in the meat-centric world, meat is in the center of the plate. You're having a steak dinner. You're having king crab dinner. And everything else was just to fill the plate. You know, by the time you got done with the steak, well, you didn't really feel like eating the potatoes or the lettuce. You know, green vegetables were just not a big part of my meal, and now they're a huge part of my meal and my plates that I make. But the important thing about preparing food is your tools. I love tools. If you went into my garage, you would see so many tools. I love to collect them. I love to shop online. When we travel, I like to buy tools at various kitchen stores, bring them home, and that way when I use them, I remember the time that we went to Taos. And I'm saying Taos now because we were recently in Taos and we picked up a few items there. I'm using the term tools broadly. I'm using them to describe appliances, countertop appliances. I'm using it to describe the tools, the hand tools that we use in preparation of meals, pots and pans, and storage tools. So that's my terminology here. That's what I'm going to be presenting on. Tools fall into several categories: preparation, the actual cooking of the meal, and then the storage, the wrap up, if you will. In the preparation side, it's everything. The better you can prepare your meal, then the assembly and the final preparation is so much easier. It goes so much easier. You know, if you watch the cooking shows on television, they've got the salt and the pepper all measured out, and they just throw it in there. Well, we're not going to go that far. Okay, that's an extreme. But nonetheless, the point being is that the better prep you can do on the front end, the easier and the better it's going to come out on the back end. So moving along, you know, there are some tools, and I like to use the Cold Stone ice cream gauge for this. You've got the like it, you got the love it, and you've got the gotta have it. Some tools, you like it, you don't necessarily have to have it. Some you love and that you're going to use every single day. And it's a journey of learning too, because you know, some things you can say, well, I can boil a pot of water. I mean, how difficult is that? But one of the things that's central to our kitchen is a electronic kettle. We started out with a glass one, it broke too easily. This one, the brand that I like to purchase is Breville. They're very durable. I think it's a Danish company. Very durable, very advanced technology. This unit, we use it every single day to make teas, to make coffee. I use it for coffee in the morning, all kinds of usage. Also, there's some tricks. So in my presentation, I'm going to talk about tools, tips, and tricks. Tricks are going to come along the ways after I talk about tools. But for instance, hot water. This time of year I love. In New Mexico, green chili is being harvested. And when you're driving around the streets of any town in New Mexico, most of the grocery stores are roasting green chili and putting it in bags for you to take home and subsequently freeze. It's a great time of year. Harvest time is a wonderful time for vegans. Here's a quick tip. Peaches. I love peaches. Can't get enough of them. But getting the little peels off the peaches is difficult. So what you can do is you can throw them into a glass. You can take your hot water kettle, pour hot water in there, let it set for, 10, 15 seconds, depending on the firmness of the peach. And when you pull it out of the water, it is so much easier to peel the skin off of the fruit. Moving on, as far as the appliances that you might use, moving on to the appliance section, you've got your blender. I'm not a baker. I like preparing savory things because I'm not much about measuring things. I like to go with feel and touch and smell, of course, and appearance. No kitchen is complete without a good blender. Should you spend a lot of money on that? Well, I break it into, if it's something that you use, it should be something that's durable. And it's really good to spend the money up front because it's going to last you for a long time. You buy a good blender, you buy a good kettle, it's going to last you 5, 10 years, maybe longer. So, invest the money up front for those kinds of things. As far as the hand tools, you don't really need to spend that much money. Blender. This one here is a great blender. It's the Vitamix variety. It's the staple for vegans, it seems like. In retrospect, I would buy one that has a variable speed. This unit does not, and it does a great job. You can chop, liquid, moist things, and you can chop even coffee. You can prepare your coffee in it. I don't highly recommend that, but you can use it for dry as well as wet goods. Pressure cooker. This one is Breville also. It is a great unit. It allows you to set a timer for coming it on. You can set the pressure of the pressure cooking. You can also set the temperature of it. It has a great gauge as far as preset settings for rice, for legumes, for various things. You throw it in there, you can even saute in it, and then turn it on, let it do the final cooking. Over here, no kitchen should be complete without a good food processor. This again is a Breville unit. It's got, of course, the container that you chop things in, but you can use it for chopping cucumbers. You can use it for chopping up carrots. You can use it for shredding. One of the things that I particularly like about this unit here is that it has, for slicing vegetables, in particular cucumbers, carrots, etc. It has a adjustable gauge, and I don't know if you can see it here, but you can adjust, and here's the numeric gauge, you can adjust the depth or the thickness of the cut for your final product, which is really great. A word of caution, when you use this, always retract the blade into the unit because it's extremely sharp and you can cut yourself with it easily. Now, an alternative as far as cutting, it would be something like this guy here. It's known as a banjo. Again, you gotta be careful with this unit. I've cut myself numerous times on this, but you use it to slice vegetables by moving it across the surface. The vegetables end up chopped in this container here, makes it real easy. You can also shred with this, cheeses, various vegetables with this unit. It works pretty well too. Then you've got, of course, the old school units. You've got your traditional shredder. You know, it works really great. You've got your microplane. This is really useful for garlic. It's useful for lemon peel, orange peel, a lot of different things. Great unit right here. Moving on along, we've got your Insta Fryer. Great unit here. Tip, go ahead and purchase the paper inserts. Makes cleanup really easy. You just throw it in. When you're done cooking, throw this away, give it a quick rinse, soapy water, you're good to go. This unit is great for if you want to be lazy, you can get some frozen French fries, for example, tater tots, whatever. Throw it in here. You can use it to warm up bread, pita bread. We used it last night to warm up pita. You can use it for a lot of things. And it's one of those you think about it before you buy it. It's like, am I going to really use it? Then you have it, and it's like, oh man, I can't live without it. We got to use it all the time. Another unit that another reason to purchase with this guy here. And this guy is used to make fresh orange juice. It's a little heavy, and it takes up a lot of counter space, but it makes pressing orange juice, grapefruit juice, any of the skinned juices really easy to prepare and make. It's the other benefit of using a unit like this is that you get a little more mileage out of your oranges, etc. You get more juice out of them is what I mean. Moving along to the hand tools, you got a lot of different things in the preparation aspect. I'm going to start, every kitchen should have a collection of good knives. You got your chef's knife. Should you spend a lot of money on knives? Personally, I don't. I think, you use them, you toss them in the cabinet. It'd be nice to have one on the counter that's nice and pretty. Well, get one of those and leave it there and don't use it. Just get some good knives, some good cheap knives. I like the Cuisinart and also the Cutco brand of knives. You should have a chef's knife. A good serrated knife is always handy to have. This is really good for tomatoes. Tomatoes, especially in the latter part of the season, their skins get kind of thick. So, this is useful for cutting the tomatoes into slices without smashing them, essentially. And my trick that I showed you earlier with the glass of water with the peaches, That also applies to tomatoes if you want to remove the skins off the tomatoes easily. Just throw them in a glass, pour some hot water in there, whip them out after 10, 15 seconds, peel the peels off, real easy. So that covers knives. But one more thing kitchen should always have is a good set of shears or scissors. These are Cutco also. They come apart for easy cleaning. Just throw them in the dishwasher. But you would be amazed if you don't have one, how many uses you have for this here, besides the obvious opening up the Amazon packages, but also just for in food preparation. Handy unit. Also, we have your cutting boards. You know, you can get fancy wooden cutting boards that are engraved or that have inlays or what have you. Great. I don't personally like wood cutting boards. I don't like porous things like wooden spatulas. I think that a plastic surface doesn't absorb things and just a better surface. So these are just throwaways. It's the alternative to a cutting board. You throw it on your countertop, you chop with it. When you're done, you throw it in the dishwasher. Comes out nice and clean and sanitized. Little ones are always good too for small berries, etc. But I like the plastic units. When I first became vegan, I thought, I was talking earlier about, meat-centric cooking. With tofu, it's like, well, I'm going to cook me a big plate of tofu. I'm going to get a brick of tofu, and that's no. But preparing tofu, a good tofu press is always good. Most instructions will tell you wrap it in a towel and press it, but good tofu press is good. Now this one you don't need to buy a fancy one. We purchased one of the ones that's got a container for storage and elastic bands or rubber bands that flip over it to press it and etc. Didn't use it that much. It was more of a pain. This guy here is really useful. It's just a couple of sheets of plastic with some threaded rods, all thread rods, and some turn screws, thumb screws, if you will. Throw your tofu in there and give it a good press. Veganism is mentioned earlier, takes a bad rap, unfortunately. You've got, people look negatively upon vegans, and that's unfortunate, but I do have a joke. How many vegans does it take to change a light bulb? 2. One to announce they're a vegan and the other to change the light bulb. Har, har, har. Couple of things. Can openers. Standard can opener. Does the job. Found this one. Really, really cool. It's got a button on this top, a little slider on the side. You throw it on top of the can, press the button, it opens the can up. Don't have to touch anything. It was cheap too. It was given to us as a gift by a close friend, but it really does the job. Chopping, preparation. This is a nut grinder. If you look on this side, it's got a cutting set of cutters, and you've got a little crank on the side and a jar to put the nuts in. It's going to give you a fine chop on your nuts, but these are really handy to have. You throw your nuts in the top. I like to put nuts in a cast iron skillet, bring it up to temperature, flip them around a little bit. When they become a little aromatic, throw them in the top of this guy, give them a grind. Really, really, really makes the flavors of the nuts come out. Then, of course, you've got your standard chopper. This one is a tabletop unit. The chopped nuts come out on the bottom. You throw this guy on top, put the nuts in there, bang it around a few times, and you have a more coarsely chopped nut come out of that unit. No kitchen should also be without a salt container. How many times do you prepare something and it requests that you put in a pinch of salt? This little unit we got up in Taos, it's got a little spoon so you can measure out a pinch, or you can just grab a pinch. It's got a lid on it to keep the critters out of it. Really, really handy. If you don't have one, I really suggest picking one up or get a really small bowl and just put some salt in it on your in your kitchen. And when you need a pinch, it's right there, ready for you to use. Toothpicks. Toothpicks are essential to the kitchen. They are really handy. Also, another use for toothpicks, if you've got a cabinet where a thread came out on the hinge, for instance, you can take a toothpick, dip it in Elmer's glue or some other wood glue, jam it inside the hole, break it off, let it dry for a little while, put the screw in, tightens right up. If the screw hole happens to be larger, you can always use the old book matches. I'm sorry, the wooden matches to put them in there. Moving on along, you've got your apple slicer. Put your apple on the table, take this guy, push it down. Comes out nice, even slices. This one's also useful for potatoes. If you want to make some steak fries, I hate the term, but if you want to make steak fries, put your potato on the counter, push this through, throw them in the Insta fryer, and you're ready to go. Some things that we purchased, didn't really use a lot. This one here, this is a salad chopper. Nice concept. Don't really use it that much. Basically what you do, if I can get the thing open, is you put in the bowl of salad and you chop, 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 chop. Don't spend money on this one. Every kitchen needs a juicer, standard equipment. Then you've got things like this guy here. This is good for slicing melons, watermelons, any kind of melon. Cut it in half, remove the seeds, take this guy and you slide it in and out, and it makes nice big slices without the outer skin on it. Handy. This guy here, this is for coring. It's an apple core. Use it for pears, use it for apples, anything that's got a solid core. Push it down the center, pull it out, you're ready to go. A couple more things. We're getting towards the end of my presentation. This one is a great unit. Got to have one of these. What is it? Well, actually what it's used for is removing the leaves off of parsley. It's good for removing the rosemary off of the stem. All you do is you can see it's got some holes along the edge here. You just cut it, push it through here, pull it out the other side, and you've got a nice bunch of parsley or whatever for your preparation. Chop it up and you're ready to use it. Really, really handy. Every kitchen needs a good set of funnels. Got to have those. You need some good measuring cups. This one is graded measuring. Don't use this one that much. But if you're really anal retentive, you can see it's got metric, it's got SAE, it's got every grade you can imagine. This one goes on the top of jars, what have you, to fill them up with if you're canning. This guy here. This one is a butter mold. I like to make my own butter, vegan butter. It's really easy to make, just a few ingredients. Look it up on Google. When you've made the butter, you just pour it into this mold, seal it on top. It's dual use. You can prepare and store in here. You throw it in the freezer, let it freeze up hard, and you're ready to have some great homemade butter. Strongly recommend. Homemade butter is really, really good. The kitchen should have a sieve. Couple of sizes. Pick your fruit, throw it in here, rinse it into the sink. Store. Got several options here. You've got bowls, sealable lids, serve, store, dual use. And then finally, you've got stainless steel bowls. Highly recommend. Got 3 sizes in here. Easy to clean, easy to use. Gotta have them. That's on the gotta have scale, the Cold Stone scale. One last thing before I go, I want to talk about pots and pans. We sprung for the Le Creuset brand, a little on the pricey side. Really, really great. They distribute the heat evenly across the cooking surface. You're going to use this a lot. Spend some good money on some good frying pans, saucepans. You need this one, you need the next size up, and then you need the one to boil your pasta in. That's really all you need, but I really highly recommend going for a good quality cookware. And that's about it for my presentation. I want to thank you for tuning in, Nancy, and I want to thank you, Nancy, for this presentation. It's always a pleasure to be here. You do a great, great job and a great service to promoting veganism and a plant-based lifestyle.
Thank you. Thank you for all those tips, Paul, because there's a couple of gadgets you had that I'm going to order as soon as this is done. But thank you. And
thank you.
see you again.
Bye-bye.
Our next presenter is J.C. Corcoran. He co-founded Plant Peace Daily in 2007 as a platform for education, activism, and inspiration. He is a passionate long-term vegan and is committed to energizing and supporting activists and educators in their outreach for nonviolence, critical thinking, effective communication, peaceful living, and ethical consumerism. Please help me welcome JC and his presentation, Armchair Activism. Welcome, JC.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at the Red and Green Veg Fest for New Mexico. And thank you, Nancy and Tammy, for putting this all together. Appreciate it.
I can't hear you, JC.
How about now?
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. For some reason, the button didn't click properly. Anyway, welcome everybody to the Red and Green Veg Fest for New Mexico. And thank you, Tammy and Nancy, for putting this all together and making it work. We appreciate it all. So you may want to, by the way, you may want to grab a pencil and paper because you might want to jot down some ideas that I offer up to you, and you can also get a hold of me afterwards, and if you've got anything specific you want to talk about or ask.
JC, just so you know, we're seeing your screen that's got contact information for Nancy and myself, not your slides.
Let's see what we can do to fix that. How's that?
Much better.
Okay. So, like I was saying, we've heard a lot of presenters already who have given you more than enough reason for either going vegan or to do some outreach. And what I would like to do is talk a little bit about doing some outreach. And it's armchair activism, something that you can probably do just from home, although there's other ways to do outreach as well. The problems that we face on this planet are massive and historic, and we have to deal with these very soon. And one of the fastest ways to do that is for everyone to become vegan. Now, I don't expect that everyone will, but we can get a large percentage of the population to go vegan because we've got some good reasons to do that. So I'm going to give you some tips on what you can do in order to do some outreach. One of them is to join an organization like, for instance, Mercy for Animals and become a hen hero. Now, a person who is a hen hero is somebody who joins with their campaigns. They're doing outreach. For instance, they're trying to get IHOP to offer vegan food, or they've targeted a grocery store chain to offer more vegan food. This is a simple, easy way to do your outreach. Joining Mercy for Animals, or for those who don't know, there is also vegan outreach. So, and they're the ones who are doing the IHOP outreach that you want vegan pancakes. It's very simple to do either one of these. Just join them and do a little, go to their websites and do a little bit of looking around. You can see up here, mercyforanimals.org, Hen Heroes, and you're there, and then you can sign up. Very simple to do outreach. It's very effective. They get 3,000 or 4,000 people, trying to reach out to an organization or to a grocery store chain or a restaurant chain, and they're very effective at what they do. So it's simple to do, and you can join in. But another simple thing for you to do is to actually go to your own local restaurant. I'm sorry, local grocery store, and ask them to carry something. You know, we've all kind of experimented around with various vegan foods, and if you find something you like and your local grocery chain is not carrying it, then get in touch with them. Give them a simple phone call. You can reach out to the dairy. Somebody is always in charge of the dairy or the meat or the seafood or the deli department. Reach out to them and tell them, this is a great product. I wish you would try to use this and or sell this, and do some outreach like that. They are more than happy to listen to you. We've gotten so many different things in different stores simply by asking. And, you know, because they don't really know what vegans are interested in, but they know that there's a lot of people that are interested in veganism. And so they're willing to update their inventory. And you can also reach out to them on, say, Facebook. If you're afraid to make a phone call, you can post on their, you know, almost every grocery store has a local Facebook page, or you can do it on Instagram or wherever, and just request specific foods, or in general, just say, I'd like to see more vegan options, and you probably will get some response. The next thing that's easy to do is to get yourself buy yourself a DVD. This is a photograph from the film, The Game Changers. And I got a couple of, actually I got 3 DVDs. We have in Santa Fe 3 local library sections, locations. And I got it into all 3 of the different libraries. And so anyone who goes into that library can pick up the Game Changers and take it home and watch. So it's very simple to do. Just make sure when you contact the library and offer this, that you make it clear that you want to see that in the catalog, and you want it to be offered for people to check out. And if they're not unwilling to do that, then give them more reasons why they should. Direct them to how they can watch it on Netflix or something like that. Give them some reason to want to put it into the catalog. It's not that difficult at all. Another thing that you can do is to sign petitions. There's a lot of them. Here's one of the many different kinds. Care to petitions, but there's many others that offer to help animals in some way in many cases. And it's easy to do. Just sign up and you'll get daily notifications of different things that you can do and sign. The more effective petitions are ones that are localized, but you can participate in the national ones as well. Okay, this is actually, I want to bring up something else before I do that. It's so easy to educate your neighbors and community by simply writing a letter to the editor. I've gotten literally hundreds of letters published. I've gotten some that haven't been published, but I always look at it as my attempt is to educate the public and get them to look at things slightly differently about a vegan lifestyle and a vegan diet. And in this case, this was a letter that was printed a couple of years ago in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Whether or not you get it published isn't that important. The fact is that you'll educate the editors. You will also let them know what their constituents and their subscribers are interested Oh, by the way, I have a Facebook page called Steal These Letters. Many of the letters that I've gotten published over the years are available on that Facebook page, and you're more than welcome to edit them and to submit them yourself to your local newspaper, wherever that might be. So take advantage of that. Makes it a little bit easier, and it's just as effective. Go back to this page. Okay, so for those of you who didn't know it, there's a lot of backyard breeders and puppy mills that are operating right under your nose. Here in New Mexico, over 60,000 animals are killed every year just because they don't have a home. They get caught up into the system and eventually are killed. And so these breeders are just allowing these animals to be killed because they're actually breeding dogs and cats and selling for, in many cases, a huge profit. So what you want to do, and many times they're doing this on Craigslist. So you can go to Craigslist, and I'll show you what a Craigslist ad looks like for a dog. Here's a German short hair pointer puppies, $800 in Santa Fe. All you do is do a search. You do a search for sale and in community. And I do puppies, and if you want black cats or whatever other animals, that's fine too. You just simply put your cursor over the flag and you flag it like that. And what happens is that if 5 or 6 people in your community are flagging these things, Craigslist will actually take those posts down. I've seen hundreds of them being taken down. So please avail yourself of that and save some of these animals that are viable, healthy dogs and cats that could go into homes from your community, like, for instance, the shelters that are around here. And by the way, it is against Craigslist policy to even sell dogs and cats on Craigslist. So for those of you who are a little more ambitious, I got this. Oh, I just also wanted to talk to you briefly about Dawn's Watch. If you're a good writer and a good letter writer, Dawn Watch is great. She alerts you to different publications, many times on a national level, that you can write a letter to the editor, and she'll give you all the tools in order to make that connection and write that letter. And it's a simple way to really push the vegan message on the platforms for major newspapers. And once again, if any of you are a little more ambitious, you can get a proclamation done for your city. I got this done in 2019. It's a proclamation for the city of Santa Fe as a recognition of vegan out. Let's see if I can get this down smaller. I think I can. I can bring it down some. So it's Vegan Awareness Month every month now in November. And it's got some great information. And the mayor was willing to sign this once he read it and did a little research on his own. As you can see, there's lots of good reasons why everyone should go vegan. And then every year in November, I pull this out and I share it on social media within the city that I am with. And I try to get I actually share it on my own Facebook page. I do have 5,000 people, great close friends, and they all have an opportunity to see this and draw one up themselves, make this available. And once again, I'm willing to share all of this information with you. Another thing that you can do is simply put this on the front of your car. It's so easy to do. let people know that you're vegan and wearing shirts like this. It's time to not be ashamed of being vegan anymore. It's such an important aspect of what we can do with our lives in order to improve the lives of animals, improve the planet, and of course, improve our own health. All of these tips are available in this book that we wrote. You can get it on Amazon. I think it's $5 or something like that. And if you've got a Kindle, you can get it for, I think, 99 cents. But it's also available as a PDF on our website. I'll show you our website here, plantpeacedaily.org, and you can see that's the address for our website. It's a free PDF. You can download it. It's only about 100 pages long, and it's big print, but it's got some great ways for you to become an activist. Simple activities and not difficult to do at all. So please avail yourself to that. And then one last thing I would like to share with you is that my wife, Grace Cora, has written a wonderful book called Little Jew on the Soul Train. It's a semi-fictional memoir, and this is a great book. You can buy it and share it with family and friends. It's a vegan activist book. It doesn't say that, but it really is. Within every page is a message of kindness and compassion that you can share with family and friends. So anyway, that is the end of my presentation. I want to thank you all for attending, and if you have any questions or would like to share, like me to share more information with you, I'd be more than happy to do that. So thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time, and I hope everyone got something.
Thank you so much, JC, for your presentation and for, I see you're in the armchair talking about armchair activism. It's awesome.
There it is.
And
Got
how
armchairs.
and how simple it is
It is simple.
to just, do one little thing, and everybody could do one little thing. If they don't want to go out and have a protest, they can write from their armchair, sign a petition, share a post, and just keep supporting each other and each other's efforts so that we can grow the community more and more.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here, JC.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Wow. What wonderful speakers and presentations, Tammy. Are you out there? Join me, why don't you?
I am.
It was a great day. We ran a little late, but that's okay because we had some technical difficulties. And of course, before we go, Tammy, because we were running a little late, let's give away something. Can you let's do 1 or 2 trivia questions before we go?
Excellent plan. Let me get those up for you guys. Okay. All right. And remember, to answer it, you have to enter the answer into the question section of the control panel. The question is, in what year was the Laboratory Animal Welfare Act introduced?
And the
correct answer.
person with the answer is going to receive one of Dr. Akel's open heart book and a Positive Links bracelet with little paws. It's the cutest little thing.
I love that. Oh, we got one. All right. So Dominique got the answer, which was 1966. Yay,
Awesome.
Dominique.
Awesome.
Do we want to do another one, or are we?
Yes, let's do another one. Maybe another, 2, and then we'll let it go.
Okay. So we got another trivia question. Who wrote the book, The China Study? And the answers are down there. And I'm waiting for the correct answer to be entered. It has not been entered yet. Keep trying. Oh, folks are getting it half right. There we go. We got Richard, who got, nope, let's Somebody entered the right one. Let me see. Yeah, sorry, Derice was the first one to enter it. We got a ton of correct answers right in the same.
Okay, so she or he will receive a Happy Herbivore T-shirt donated by ABQ Vegetarian Group with some bumper stickers. I think they're from vegan, tofu, the better white meat, and 2 others. Awesome. And that was who won that one?
I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, and I apologize. I believe it's Derice Warren.
Okay, and let's do one more.
Okay, last one, folks. What is the name of Gary Yourofsky's organization? A, B, C, or D? Oh, and Derice said I said it right, so I did not pronounce it incorrectly. Yay.
And the winner of this trivia is going to win a little vegan book collection for kids. It's Vegan, the Vegan Pirate, and he figures out how to be a vegan pirate. And then we have activist paper dolls, because it's really cool, because if kids want to learn and you want to teach them how to start doing their activism, it's got, you know, little things that they could do. And the change agents, a story about some kids in school and how they promote veganism.
So the answer was C, and the first person that got that in was Casey Christian. So
awesome.
That package of goodies, which is great. Congratulations.
Okay. Well, we hope everyone had fun, learned something, and was inspired by something or someone. I know I was. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. There will be more wonderful speakers, cooking demos, and fun coming your way. And we'll also announce the photo contest winners. Tammy, is there anything else you want to add?
Yes, I do. I want to take this moment to ask folks, if you can, to please go on to sproutingcompassion.org/support and make a small donation to Sprouting Compassion. This organization is doing really good work, bringing us things like the Red and Green Veg Fest, but Nancy does so much more. I'm privileged to be on the board. And, you know, this was free to you guys for today, but it certainly was not free to create this really impressive lineup of speakers and all the technical stuff that is required to make this happen. So if you can just go online and give a few dollars each, that would really help us to not only pay for this year's event, but to continue doing these kinds of events in the future. So thank you for thinking through that with me and supporting Sprouting Compassion. We really appreciate your support. And with that, goodbye, everybody. We will see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I put the link, in case you haven't registered for day 2, in the chat, or you can always get it on our Facebook page or on our website.
And remember, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.